Hello and welcome to this Android event tutorial brought to you by North Border Software. My name is Gary, and in this set of 3 tutorials we're going to look at the Android Place Picker. Now the Place Picker is a predefined widget which can be called upon by an application, and the widget allows us to search for names and addresses of businesses and places of interest which are close to our location. And we can use that information when we select a particular place to populate the any information we want, names, addresses, etc., into our application. Before we get on with the coding, let's just have a closer look at the Android Place Picker. So what is the Google Android Place Picker? Well, let's just say we're designing a simple app which needs to search for names and addresses of businesses close to our location. Of course, we can build all that code from scratch, pull up a map and get all the information, but that's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we have to maintain and support that. An easy way is quite simply to create an intent which actually calls the Google Places API. What this then does is load a predefined widget. This widget has a common look and feel and is easy to use, and we can just make use of this particular widget. When the widget is actually called up, you can see a map and a list of names of places close to the location. All we need to do is scroll through the list and just select the location that we're interested in. Once we do that, then that is returned to the app, and we can use that information as we need to. In this case, in our example, we're just going to display the name and the address of that particular business. So why use the Place Picker? Well, clearly it's going to save us a lot of time coding, and it's going to be very easy to implement, and it's going to provide a standard look and feel across our app and other apps as well. Furthermore, it's actually maintained by Google as part of the Google Play Services API. Again, that's going to save us a lot of time and a lot of effort. Another thing to consider when using the Google Places API is the use of attributions. Now this is in the terms of use for the Google Places API and can't be ignored. We won't want your app to get disqualified because they don't use attributions appropriately. Now if you're showing the place data on a Google map, then the Google logo must be visible on that map. If you choose not to use the map and display the places data, then you must show a powered by Google image. If in our case we're going to use a follow-up screen, then we must show the attributions on that screen, which may be third-party attributions or attributions associated with Google, and we'll show how to handle that in the example. So let's focus on our plan for this project. Part 1, we'll focus on the project framework. We'll create our project in Android Studio, and then we'll generate a Google Places API key. We'll set up dependencies and permissions, and then we'll create an XML layout. Part 2 is going to be a fairly long part. We'll focus on the Java coding. We'll deal with the permissions in runtime, and we'll create the Place Picker code, and then we'll test the project. Part 3 is going to be a fairly short part. We're going to add some boundaries to the Place Picker. For that, we just need to add the code and then do a final test on the project. Anyway, now back to the coding. Okay, so we'll start by just generating a new project, and I'm just going to call this Place Picker. Okay, and we'll compile against a minimum of API 5.0. Our target API is Android Nougat, which is 7.1, so that's the latest at this point in time. I'm just going to use an empty activity there. We'll just keep all this as a default, and we'll let the project build. Okay, so the project's built. The first thing I want to do is set up some dependencies. The Place Picker does require the use of Google Play Services, in particular the Places API, so I'm just going to put a dependency in the project. So the way I'm going to do it is go to File, and it'll be Project Structure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just select App out of this window, and you can see we've got a Dependencies tab here. So I'm just going to add a dependency, and it'll be a library dependency, and I just need to search down for Google Play Services. And I'll just put the full set in here. I could just search for Places, but I'll just take the full Google Play Services there, and we'll just OK that. So what's going to happen now is the project is going to rebuild and resync. Okay, so the project has finished building. The next thing I want to do is prevent a Dalvik executable error when we compile the app. With these later releases of Android SDK, the Dalvik executable or DEX file, there's a single one of those per project, I guess, and that is limited to passing 64K's worth of methods. With these modern or later versions, then likely is that we're going to be encountering more than 65,000 methods. So we can do two things. We can take Google Play Services and just load the Google Places API, and that will work. Another way is to actually enable multi-dex and set that equal to true, and we do that in the build.gradle file, and that's what I'm going to do now. So if you look for Gradle scripts, you want to open this once against the module app, and inside the default configuration here, we want to turn multi-dex enabled equal to true. So it's just multi-dex. Okay, so all that needs to happen now is another resync of the project. Okay, so that's resynchronized. I'm going to turn my attention now to the manifest file. That's the layout. Just pull up the manifest file. What we're going to be doing here is adding some permissions. The place picker will require access to the internet and the file location. Also, we need to enter some metadata into the application. The metadata primarily is there for the API key, which is required to access Google Play Services. So first of all, let's just get the permissions in, and we'll just review those when we've done. Okay, so two permissions there, the file location and internet. By adding the file location, we automatically imply this permission for the course location, so we don't need to put a double entry in there nowadays. The next thing I want to do is just notify the application that it's going to be using OpenGL 2.0. This is it's a uses feature tag. I don't think it's essential, however, it is recommended in the programming that this is put in, so we'll put it in anyway. So that's just telling the compiler and everything else that the app is using OpenGL version 2.0. Okay, so what we need to do now is focus on the metadata. So what we need to do now is just turn our attention inside the application tags. What we'll do just at this point here, we'll start to put in some metadata. The first one I'm going to put in is really just a reference to the Google Play Services. Again, it's not essential, but this can actually prevent some compilation errors when you try to build the app. So again, it's worth putting in. Okay, so this should actually be referencing, I think I'm using Google Play Services 10.01, and that's all it is. It's just pulling out the Google Play version Google Play Services version that we're using. The next meta tag is the reference to the API key. So we'll get the tag in place, and then we'll look at the process of actually obtaining the key. Okay, so it's important that I actually use Google Places for Android API key. I'm going to put the value in here, but what we need to do is actually generate the key. And also notice these metadata tags are actually inside the application tags. So let's go and get a key. So let's just open a browser. Okay, so the URL that we need to visit is console.developers.google.com. You'll need to be logged into your Google account for this. What I'm going to do is just create a project. Just create a project here. And it'd be, let's call it just place picker 5. I'm just going to create that. Okay. When that's created, what I need to do is just then go to, you see it's loaded in the project here. I'm going to go to the library. What I want to do is look for Google Places for API Android. I'm just going to click on that. Okay, and it tells you all about that API there. I'm going to enable this API. This is what I want. So what I need to do now is actually create the credentials. To use the API, you need to create the credentials. So I just hit the button here. Okay, and you just follow these buttons through. And this is the key. Now, we need to restrict this key. We could take it as it is, but that means any app could use it, which means it could be stolen and you'll lose your quota. So what I'll do, I'll just put done there, and all I'm going to do is just edit this key here. Okay, now I'm going to put the restrictions in. So I want to select Android apps, and you can see it's opened up this information here, and it tells you how to get the SHA1 fingerprint. Now we're going to be using the debug key here, so we need to go to our Debug Keystore. So you need to modify this command line for your own environment, and I've done that here. You can see my keystore is in users Gary H .android debug keystore, so it's going to be in this .android directory, and you find the debug keystore there. To get the key tool, that's in the Java, and then the specific version of Java. For me, it's GRE 1.8.0._111 in the binary, in the bin directory. Then you'll see the key tool. So all I need to do actually for myself is just copy this in here, and what I want to do is open up a command line. Okay, and I can just paste this in. Okay, and just enter there. Now you can see it's generated this information here. What I'm interested in is the SH1 fingerprint. So I need to copy this information, so I can actually just mark this, and I'll just copy it. Okay, so all I need to do is open this window up here and just paste the information in there, and I just enter the package name, which was com.place, mbs tutorials place picker. Okay, just make sure that's absolutely right. com.mbs tutorials place picker, and I just need to save this information. So that's the key restriction, put it in. So what I want to do is just copy this key here, and what I'll do then is just a case of simply pasting that into the manifest. Place it in there, and that's job done. So that's the debug key. So when you actually come to release your app, you'll need to generate a new key, and you'll actually sign your app ready for release onto the market. So that'll generate a new SHA1 fingerprint, which you then need to include in the restrictions for the key. So you need to have a separate release key and debug key. These keys are free, but they are quoted. It's 1,000 calls per day. So if you've got a very successful app, you'll need to purchase some more premium keys, but the basic keys are free of charge. Okay, so that's really our Android manifest finished. What we need to do now is just simply go and get the layout in. Okay, so what I want to do in terms of layouts, quite straightforward really. I just want to have a button, probably place the button around here. When we press that button, it will initiate the intent builder for the place picker, so it will just call up the place picker. When we select a place, I want to retrieve that information and just display it in a couple of text view fields. The text view fields will be for the business name and the business address. And at the bottom, I'm going to put a web view there for the attributions. Now, attributions are presented in HTML format, so that's why I've chosen the web view, so it's quite easier task for us to process the HTML. So all I'm going to do is just get on and just manually type the layout in. Okay, so that's the layout. It's just like I say, a simple button with a text view for the place name. Below that, text view for the place address, and then a web view at the bottom of the screen for the attributions. Let's just check the design on screen. And you can see this is pretty much what I want. We've got the button here, which we'll call the place picker, place name, place address, and the attribution. So really that's it for part one. What we'll do with part two, we'll go on and generate the Java code. So catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Remember to like, share and subscribe if you found this tutorial set useful, and all the source code and project files are available for download from my website. Thank you.